For decades, the war for energy was fought in the shadows. It was fought in boardrooms and secret meetings. It was a war of paperwork. But yesterday, the paperwork stopped and the steel took over. In a move that shocked global markets, the United States didn't just sanction a vessel, they seized it. Less than 24 hours ago, U.S. authorities intercepted a massive oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. The official reason? Sanctions enforcement. The reality? This is the opening shot of a new kind of war. While the media is distracted by speeches in Pennsylvania and budget fights in Congress, a fuse has been lit in the Caribbean. The Maduro regime is backed into a corner, global oil markets are holding their breath, and the United States just signaled that it is done asking nicely. This isn't just about one ship. This is about who controls the energy, who controls inflation, and ultimately who runs the Western Hemisphere. The diplomatic era is over. The oil war has begun. Let's look at exactly what happened. Late yesterday, reports confirmed that U.S. federal authorities moved on a tanker carrying Venezuelan crude oil. The operation was fast, and the message was brutal. For years, the U.S. has played a game of cat and mouse with Venezuela. We've placed sanctions on their oil company. We've frozen their assets. But physically seizing a tanker in international waters, that is a major escalation. According to the Department of Justice, this ship was breaking the law. They say it was funneling profits to the Maduro dictatorship. But we need to read between the lines here. The Trump administration is currently fighting a battle at home. Inflation is high. People are angry about prices. So why risk a move that could make oil more expensive? It's a gamble. The White House is betting they can strangle the supply of rogue oil without crashing the global economy. It's a high-stakes poker game played with millions of barrels of crude. Venezuela's reaction was immediate. They are calling this an act of piracy. They're asking their allies, Russia, China, and Iran, to step in. And that is where this gets dangerous. We aren't just talking about a fight between Washington and Caracas. We are talking about the U.S. Navy taking assets that are likely funded by Chinese banks and Russian interests. When you seize a ship, you aren't just taking oil, you are taking sovereignty. And history tells us that nations do not let that slide. To understand why this is happening now, you have to understand the ghost fleet. For the last 3 years, a shadow economy has been running the world's oceans. Russia, Iran, and Venezuela have built a hidden network. They use old tankers, they turn off their GPS trackers, they paint over their ship names. This ghost fleet allows America's enemies to survive despite our sanctions. It has kept the lights on in Venezuela and the war machine running in Russia. The seizure we saw yesterday is the U.S. saying, "We see you." It proves American intelligence has cracked their code. They knew exactly which ship to hit and when. This is a warning to every captain and every insurer involved in this trade. Your cargo is not safe. But this strategy has a flaw. The United States is basically weaponizing the ocean. By seizing this tanker, the U.S. is trying to enforce a blockade without legally declaring war. And Venezuela is the perfect target. It is right in America's backyard. However, Venezuela sits on the largest proven oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia. As long as that oil is there, the great powers of the world will fight over it. China has loaned billions to Venezuela, payable in oil. By seizing this tanker, the U.S. isn't just taking money from Maduro, they are taking collateral from Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. Now, let's bring this home to your wallet. In the last 24 hours, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates again. They are trying to save the economy because the data looks bad. But there is a massive contradiction in American policy right now. The Fed is cutting rates to make money cheaper, but the White House is starting an energy war that makes everything more expensive. Energy is the key to inflation. If the price of diesel goes up, the price of everything goes up. Your food, your Amazon delivery, your house, it all moves on oil. If this situation escalates, if Venezuela retaliates, oil prices will spike. And if oil spikes, inflation comes roaring back. This is an economic suicide pact. We need cheap energy to live, but our foreign policy requires us to cut off the supply of our enemies. We are removing supply from the market, but demand is staying the same. That is a recipe for disaster. And remember, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is at historic lows. We drained it to keep gas prices down last year. We do not have a safety net anymore. If the oil war heats up, the American consumer will feel every bit of it. This seizure might look like strength, but to the trained eye, it looks like desperation. It looks like an empire scrambling to control a resource it can no longer guarantee. There's another angle here that the mainstream media is ignoring: migration. The Venezuelan economy has already collapsed. Millions have fled, and many are heading straight for the U.S. border. By seizing this oil, we are tightening the screws on their economy even further. Conditions in that country will get worse. The power grid will fail. Food will disappear. What happens when a country hits absolute zero? The people leave. This is the paradox. We want to crush the regime in Caracas, but in doing so, we create a humanitarian disaster that spills directly onto our own borders. This seizure will be used as propaganda. Maduro will blame the Yankee Empire for starving his people. It gives him a scapegoat. And what if Venezuela decides to play dirty? They can't beat the U.S. Navy, but they have cyber capabilities supplied by their allies. They can attack infrastructure. We saw a federal judge block National Guard deployments in California yesterday. The U.S. is internally divided. If you were an enemy looking at the United States right now, would you back down or would you push? The seizure of this tanker is a test. The U.S. is testing the red lines of the Ghost Fleet, but our enemies are testing us too. They are waiting to see if we have the stomach for a conflict in our own hemisphere. If another tanker appears tomorrow, does the U.S. seize that one too? What if the next one is escorted by a Russian warship? The rules of the game have changed. We have moved from containment to direct action. The illusion of the rules-based order was that commerce was sacred, that the seas were open. That illusion is dead. We are entering a period of resource nationalism, a time where if you can't defend your ship, you don't own your cargo. The seizure off the coast of Venezuela is a small tactical victory, but it is a massive strategic warning. The global energy map is being redrawn, the supply chains are breaking, and the peace we took for granted is being dismantled barrel by barrel. The oil war hasn't just begun, it's here, and the cost of entry is going to be paid by you. If you want to understand the threats the mainstream media won't touch, and if you want to be prepared for what comes next, make sure you are subscribed. Turn on notifications. The algorithm hides reality. We expose it. This is Order Has Fallen.